Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Antarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Glamrita Volume 6, Uniting Two Worlds. This chapter is entitled, Please Distribute Books. It's Keshava Bharati Maharaj speaking. When you pass out a book, there is a certain reciprocation from Prabhupada. There was a dramatic difference in our internal experience when a person would take a book compared to just taking some incense or something. We would actually experience Prabhupada's association all day by distributing those books. We didn't feel left out just because certain devotees were physically closer to Prabhupada. Book distributors always got strong and lively. We would read about Haridas Thakur going out and rolling on the ground and begging people to chant. That kind of thing would inspire us. We had Prabhupada's books and different letters from him, and we also knew that if we distributed lots of books, we would get our name in the newsletter, and we would think of how Prabhupada would read it. But I was just trying to keep up with the others. Sometimes I would go a couple of hours without giving anyone a book. Everyone else would just be passing them out like crazy. I would try, and people would all but spit in my face. They were pushing me around. It was very heavy for me. I would sometimes just walk off and start crying. It was so heavy, but I knew this book distribution was pleasing to Prabhupada, and I just wanted to be part of it. We used to think how Prabhupada was spending so much time behind a dictating machine, just writing these books. We would meditate on how he would sleep just a few hours a day and minimize everything else to write these books. So we were also trying to cut down our other activities and just go out and distribute books. Prabhupada said that devotees should be in the mood of the 6 Goswamis. So we were singing those prayers every day. We felt a real connection. Even in the beginning, a devotee told me, "Where is Prabhupada? Do you know?" And then he said, "He is in his books." That mood was always there. We always felt that connection. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 4, text number 18. Bhagavata Shabina, so just do this myself. Bhagavata Shabina Parirakshya Mana Itasmin Varshena Kashyana Purusho Vanchati avidyamanam ivat mano yasmat katanchana kimapi karhichit evakshate bhartari anusavanam vijrimbitas nehatishayam antarena. Word for word. Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
By the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
By the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Rishabhena.
Rishabhena.
King Rishabha. Parirakshayamane.
Parikshakshamane.
Being protected.
Being protected.
Etasmena.
Etasmin.
On this. Varshe.
Varshe.
Planet. Na. Not.
No.
Kashchana.
Krishna.
Anyone. Purusha. Even a common man.
Even a common man.
Vanchati. Desires. Avidyamanam. Not existing in reality. Eva. As if. Atmana. For himself. Anyasmat. From anyone else. Katanchana. By any means. Kimapi. Anything. Karhichit. At any time. Avekshate. The scared to see. Bhartari. Toward the master. Anusavanam. Always. Vijrimbita. Expanding. Sneha atishayam. Very great affection. Antarena. Within oneself. Translation and proof forward by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will-o'-the-wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabhadev ruled this planet of Bharatavarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asks for a will or the wisp. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Responsibility, please. No one likes to possess anything.
No one likes to possess anything.
That is like will of the wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabhadev ruled this planet of Bharatvarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asks for a will or the wisp. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied. And therefore there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Report. In Bengal, the word Goda Dimba is used, which means the egg of a horse. Since a horse never lays an egg, the word Goda Dimba actually has no meaning. In Sanskrit, there is a word Kapushpa, which means the flower in the sky. No flower grows in the sky, therefore, no one is interested in asking for Kapushpa or Goda Dimba. During the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadev, people were so well equipped that they did not want to ask for anything. They were immensely supplied with all necessities for life due to King Rishabhadev's good government. Consequently, everyone felt full satisfaction and did not want anything. This is the perfection of government. If the citizens are unhappy due to bad government, the heads of government are condemned. During these democratic days, monarchy is disliked by the people, but here is an example of how an emperor of the whole world kept all the citizens fully satisfied by supplying the necessities of life and following the Vedic principles. Thus everyone was happy during the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadev, the supreme personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Padati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahakana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bandhu Jugatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Ishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarvayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Gomlavete Giram Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataram. By the mercy of spiritual master, blind man can see the stars, lame man can cross the mountains, and dumb man can speak eloquently. I therefore offer my respect for the decent and not to speak of my spiritual master. Vishnu Krishna 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 Vishnu Krishna Krishna Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyamari Paschatya Desha Tari. So this is a government described that is perfect. King Rishabhadev exhibited this perfect management where all the needs of the citizens were fully satisfied. So Bhakti Tirtha Swami actually is one of our experts in our movement on leadership, and he did a number of books on leadership. So he says that it's important for the leader to analyze what are the needs of the people or community. And according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there are a few things. One of them, there are certain physical needs that needs to be addressed. There are emotional needs or social needs. So people need some friendship and socialization. And then there is also a need for some mental stimulation, so that people can engage their mind, not just physically, but the mind is also engaged in some way, that there is a creative work, that there is some sort of mental activity, how to make a better service better, like always better service. You're always thinking how to make your service better. That is a good engagement for the mind. You don't become mechanical in your service if you're always thinking how I can make my service better. And the fourth thing Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is study of Shastra. So this is of course, for needs of a person who is aspiring for Krishna consciousness, who is not yet Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa can neglect some of those needs, but if one is not Paramahamsa, those needs is very significant to fulfill, and it's dynamic. Those needs are also dynamic. If you are brahmachari, is one, those needs gets expressed in one way. If you are grihastha, in another way. If you are vanaprastha, another way. If you are aged as well, if you're young, there will be a different combination of these needs. As you get older, then physical capacity may decrease, and you may need to increase your mental efforts in the way how you engage your mind and render service using your mind and balance physically, and also gender as well. There is some difference in the needs according to one's gender. So these are all dynamic things that a leader, in ideal world, because we are aspiring, we're reading this perfect example by Rishabhadev, and some of great acharyas also expressed, including Bhaktivedanta Swami, very extensively written and exemplified these principles. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so we have ideals, high ideals that we can apply in our own life, because also one has to take responsibility. For example, if we are working towards perfect leadership, and if one of those needs are not yet hasn't been satisfied by managemental arrangement, then because we know what are those needs, we can also take responsibility and make sure that those needs are fulfilled in our life, so we can kind of be satisfied, and therefore our mind is more peaceful to perform sadhana very nicely. And also this affection is very powerful thing that was flowing from the king, because ultimately we have those needs, of course, but our most fundamental need is that the soul in its pure sense is looking for affection, ultimately to the object of highest affection, Krishna. And when that is there, then other needs, they become so much less. You kind of don't need anything, because when your most important need is not satisfied, then there is such a big gap in the heart that you have to try to fill it in many ways, physical objects, sense objects, etc., for materialistic person, and devotee also, he has his needs. But so the gap is not fulfilled until we develop this full affection and love for Krishna. And Paramahamsa, when he has that love for Krishna, then all other needs are not so important anymore for him, because the most important fundamental need is satisfied. So whether it doesn't have any association, like Srila Prabhupada, he was in, I believe it was Gaura Purnima, when he was saying that all around me, 10,000 miles around me, there is not a single Vaishnava. He was writing in his diary. But he says, I'm very happy because I feel the presence of my Guru Maharaj, I'm executing his order, feel the presence of Krishna. So his social needs are satisfied because he feels the presence. It's not that a person becomes impersonal and it doesn't need anymore the affection or connection or relationship, but because a Paramahamsa feels that relationship at every moment, no matter whether he's completely alone in the middle of nowhere, or in the middle of the United States. Since that time, there was no Vaishnavas, but because he feels that affection and love, so that need is satisfied. It doesn't feel a need for anything else. His physical needs, he neglect, at least to some extent, because Prabhupada did address his physical needs to some extent by going on morning walks, by receiving a massage, and etc. But whenever it was necessary for preaching, then he would neglect them. Many times he preached when he was very sick. And then social needs, and in terms of mental stimulation, pure devotee his mind is fully engaged in Krishna service 24/7, so he doesn't need any external stimulation. It's already there. He's always thinking about Krishna and always thinking how to serve Krishna. And in terms of Shastra, like all the conclusions of the Shastra are fully manifest in the heart of a pure devotee. But until that time, for aspiring devotee, those needs are very important to be conscious of and aware of, and either we fulfill those needs ourselves, or as our leadership in ISKCON becomes more and more expert, and we have more Rajarshi type of saintly leaders, that's also will increase in due course, that those needs are being satisfied by leadership, or combination of both things. That's significant, so that there is this certain satisfaction there, and when that satisfaction is there, you can very well become absorbed in your sadhana. Hearing and chanting increase the quality of it, because if you're not very advanced and there is your lack of fulfillment of your needs, then the mind is very disturbed. Of course, if you're more advanced, then that disturbance can act as inspiration to take shelter of Krishna. But if you're less advanced, then that disturbance can take away you from Krishna, because you're not so focused on Krishna or His holy name, or on His study or scripture. If you physically have some problem, your study of scripture may go down, socializing can go down because you're like lying in a bed, etc. But this affection is so significant that if there is an increase of affection, better we take responsibility for ourselves, to share and show the affection to the devotees. Radhana Swami explains, when there is those relationships and affection, when they go up, then everything goes up in the temple. Sadhana goes up, the happiness levels goes up. So he emphasizes in his kind of sphere of influence, wherever he is GBC or wherever he speaks about this importance of cultivating good relationships, because that brings a lot of, is pleasing to Krishna, just like it was those devotees that Krishna appeared to them and said that because yours have such a good relationships, I'm very pleased. What is the name of those? Prachetas. Yeah. So they were very, very pleased and happy. He was more happy, even they were performing austerities, but Krishna was more pleased because of those relationships than the austerities. And the atmosphere becomes like a very electric and surcharged, and the people come and they become inspired, and their hearts becomes changed because Krishna is happy. So as we can see in Lord Rishabhadev, he was showering this affection. He was providing the needs of the citizens, but most importantly, there was this affection to both directions, both sides, and because of that affection, people didn't want anything. And all the sense gratification, etc., is a will of the wisp. And when there is no lack of this affection and fulfilling the needs, etc., then various types of material desires manifest, whether it is in a mundane society or even, to some extent, it can be in a Krishna conscious society. Then there is a lack of, some needs that is recognized by acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Then it can manifest in various types of material desires, lording over material nature to some extent, and etc. So we go and follow the will of the wisp or a flower in the sky. We're trying to find the happiness when there is no happiness. We're trying to lord it over material nature. We have some material desire. So it is a flower in the sky in the sense that you may get that flower in the form of whatever phone or some sort of position or control or whatever way it may manifest that material desire, but it won't satisfy you because those material things, it will never satisfy you. No matter what it is materially, we cannot be satisfied. But when we experience Krishna conscious satisfaction and fulfillment and nourishment in Krishna consciousness, then we realize this material sense gratification or any material pleasures in the subtle forms or in its gross forms is a flower in the sky, is a pie in the sky, is an egg of a horse. That this material happiness is actually, it's not real, it cannot satisfy us, it has no meaning, it has no future, because we're experiencing the real thing. And the king was considered representative of the Lord, so he was showering that affection and fulfilling the needs and etc. So whatever is our sphere of influence, even if it's just our own mind, intelligence, etc., we can take responsibility to, it's not wrong to fulfill some of those needs, but under the guidance, of course, of devotees. And of course, we don't want to spend all the time doing that. It's a certain percentage of our time. Our main focus, of course, is our sadhana. But one of those needs is the study of Shastra. So that's a part of sadhana. If we neglect that, even if physically we are good, socially we are good, mentally we are engaged, but there is a lack of study of Shastra, we will be somewhat satisfied. Yes, Prabhu.
I was just going to ask about how that fits in with chatting.
Oh, yes.
Because Sundar was quite partial to a chat, a wee chat. And sometimes there's a whole lot of them standing around having a chat for quite a while.
Yes.
And it could be in the interests of building up the relationships and making sure everybody's happy. So what's the balance between getting service done and using time efficiently? And is shooting the breeze considered constructive?
But you can see Prabhupada had, even he was a very, very busy man, you can see it, especially in the evening time. He had this darshan times when you look very, very kind of relaxed and informal and casual, and there was no pressure, no kind of frantic. So there is definitely a time for this casual interaction, which is Krishna-centered. There is a difference between Gramya Katha, village talk, and shooting the breeze about things unrelated to Krishna. And sometimes there is some space, even things that are not directly connected with Krishna, but they are connected with Krishna's service or with needs of a devotee, etc. So there is a space for that. But you can see there is a time for everything, and the service time. There are some services that it is possible to do a little bit of interaction, and that is fine if it doesn't interfere with the service. There are some things, like if there's like a group. If you go in time to fresh tea, look at people come together and make some garlands. There is some space for interaction. like cutting the veg. But if it does compromise the service, if it's just a small compromise, it's not a big problem. But if it's a big quality suffers significantly, then it's better just to focus on the service and do the socializing outside the service hours. But even on book distribution, devotees, they work hard and sometimes they have a little break and interact with each other, asking, can you give me some advice how to do my service better? And I don't know that you would like to contribute something to this question.
I just wondering if there's we do want to cultivate good relationships, and chatting can do that. Chatting, or maybe we can say outside service at hours. Would you like to come to my place and have a show?
We can discuss the Bhagavatam together,
Yeah.
And so they see that although Krishna consciousness is like it's a nice spiritual way of life, that doesn't mean that we don't still have regulated activities and certain time schedules that we're trying to keep to. They have this misconception that now that I'm into spiritual life, I can kind of just drift around and I'm not getting paid, I'm just volunteering something. I can go at the speed that I like and just take it easy, and nobody should get upset like that. So maybe you should be clearly defined, that you should understand spiritual life means working hard and with a certain amount of urgency. And if you engage nicely in your service, then you'll be satisfied with you. Doing it in a half-hearted, distracted way, and you'll be looking for any excuse at all. So because you're not really absorbed in what you're doing, you don't really understand why you're doing it. You're just sitting up some leaves. So you sit there in the day work.
I think just before we know just how anything like this, if you have it more regulated, then they could, it's not like you're not going to see this person again for the next, but you have to talk to them now, that like if you have regular Sunday feeds, everyone comes together, and message, miracles at that time. If they're kind of more regular, like there's outings and so on, not that we have an outing every week, but once a month, and then there's the Sunday feast or something every Saturday. That's Prabhupada's kind of schedule. So the idea is so if we can keep to that, then we might find there may not be such a need to do it during service hours, because they have that need, they need to satisfy it, so if it's not provided, the form is not provided for it, then they have to make their own. If they don't, especially if they don't have that taste for service that we've built up over the years. So we can't expect it there so soon, because we want to get the service done, but we provide them.
Yes, meal time is very important. This gives opportunity for six loving exchanges and meeting at the meal times. Very focused, and some devotees they are working in different places at different times, and then meeting at prasadam time. And everybody is a very nice way to interact. And also, I find very, very powerful way to socialize is actually to study and discuss Shastra together. You come together, read a little bit and discuss it. It satisfies your Shastric needs of study scripture, and also you get to know devotees a little bit better because they share their experiences and realizations in the relationship what you were just discussing. And also also is a very powerful way to socialize. Excuse me. And engage your mind. So actually, just to sit down and discuss Shastra out of those 4 needs that Bhaktivinoda Thakur identified, physical, socializing, mental, stimulation, and study of Shastra. When you sit down to discuss, my experience is that all those 3 needs are getting satisfied out of 4. Maybe physically you're not getting necessarily nourish that you get from whatever prasadam or exercise or you have a good, reasonable diet and physically active. But socializing, mental engagement, and studying Shastra, simply by studying Shastra, you sit down for half an hour, 1 hour, satisfies your needs, and you feel very, very fulfilled, and the relationships deepen, and it's Krishna centered. I find one of the best ways to do it actually.
It says in the Gita, it's one of the seed verses, they derive great satisfaction is by enlightening one and conversing that way. So as more the devotees meet together, then more those relationships can develop, and more appreciations, and we hear there is appreciation, and there's more opportunity to give it as well. And it's kind of a natural flow. And just say it's something.
And if you're kind of discussing in a smaller group that is kind of more confidential, is opportunity to reveal your heart. That may not necessarily happen in a class. Kind of Krishna manifests there in the sound vibration, and the heart kind of opens up, and there is like a trust between the people who are discussing. And then there's some certain confidential things get revealed, and you can help a devotee, you can receive the help, and Krishna has opportunity to kind of manifest on the tongue to give appropriate instruction or guidance, etc. So it is very, very powerful, and also due to influence of the modes of nature, as well as when you just sit down to study. Especially if you're like a young devotee, there's a tendency to feel kind of sleepy and tired during your reading time. But it's a bit less chance to fall asleep when you're discussing Shastra. So it's much more absorbing. Your consciousness and mind becomes more deeper absorbed when you just read, especially you feel like a young devotee. The idea that you can become easily distracted. But when you're thinking and discussing, and you're kind of thinking what you're going to say and etc., because you want to contribute to the discussion, it's much more absorbing.
It's nice for also to, when it's in the bigger forum, then when you hear from devotees, you can hear from what they say, the person that you could. They've got something that I could confide in that person, and they can give me, I trust that they can give me what I need, because I'm attracted by what they're environment by take on Krishna consciousness, and those ingredients, also those have a similar taste that they can, Prabhupada says we could associate according to our caste, which means who have a similar understanding of Krishna consciousness as well. So that can be discovered in that poem as well.
True.
It's like a desire tree.
And appreciation of devotees grows, isn't it, when we hear their realizations, and even like a completely new bhakta can give some a very nice realization about something that they appreciate in Krishna consciousness. And so it's a really nice way to deepen appreciation.
You find the less you see of devotees, the less the relationship is there. If they're very distant, then it's just like one person said, I don't know you. You've been in the community for so many years, but because if there's no common interaction,
And basically a lot of mentorship programs are based on that across the movement. When devotees come together, mentor, and then they interact, they study, they share, they discuss, and they travel together.
There's a nice lecture by Bhakti Maharaj, and he's talking there about love bombing everybody.
Love bombing.
Love bombing. So that's what he tries to do. He tries to love bomb everybody.
Yes.
And the forgiveness class as well, by Mahaprabhu, is very much on how to develop relationships where there's no resentment. So you can make excuses for people, but actually get free from being resentful of them, because you can kind of when you see a fault, something they do wrong, you can make an excuse in your mind for what they're doing. And also in the sense that you can change your story. If you change your story, so you can't forgive somebody unless you change your story. Because if your story is all about the things the person's done wrong, then how can you be able to forgive them? So you need to change the story, and the new story will have to be that it was your fault, or that it wasn't so much that person's fault, but just that he was a victim of circumstance.
Right.
So the Bhakti Maharaj seems to, like in 20, 30 years ahead, his understanding of what we need to do in the society. We're starting to catch up with that now.
That's right.
And even then, but at least now we have more access to resource sharing on how we can develop loving relationships. And these chats that the devotees are engaging in, it's their way of trying to experience that. But it could be done in a more, like you say, it's just studying Shastra, through giving gifts, giving the person a gift. Doesn't have to, you don't have to stand there for half an hour, if you're giving a gift in slow motion, it take you half an hour. You can just say, just like to give you this gift because I've seen you working and I think I really like how hard you work, and I just wanted to say thank you. And the person's like, no, it does that, you just love bomb everybody. And it's a very proactive way of purging yourself of any resentment or bitterness you feel towards everybody. Just love the exchanges,
Yeah, resentment, kind of at least for me, I don't know how for other people, when you're resentful, you want to distance yourself from the person. Your mind says, never again. I don't want to have anything to do with this person. I'm going to keep my respectful distance. I'm going to do my service. I don't want anything to do with the person. And then if you, as you say, change the story, the gifts also can be in a form of, as you said, just saying thank you or appreciation. That's a very nice gift, because often we don't have so much actually lessons to offer, but a little bit of prashadam or a kind word can go a long way.
Yes, one is if I say it in there's usually Mangalati sweets, sweets and the deities, so just to have ask permission first, not that it becomes a free for all, but you can ask permission if the Patriarcha, someone's just if they're ready and able, the devotees are poor or some don't have any money and things like that, so it's always a nice gift, kind of gift. And there's often sweets there, so.
Yes. Well, it is one of our priorities, community care, so the more you are in community development, so the more you speak about it, it kind of will become conscious, and if you don't speak about it, then kind of it tends to go a bit in the background. It requires some endeavor, conscious endeavor to do it. It's not necessarily that it's just a natural thing in Kali Yuga. That's what Radha Swami was saying, in one sense he says it's very sad that we need to create a system where devotees develop relationship, that it doesn't happen automatically or spontaneously. But that's the kind of nature of Kali. People tend to kind of separate each other from each other due to whatever resentfulness and lower modes of nature. But he says, that's what is required sometimes to create some sort of system, or at least, unofficially to do it, that we take responsibility for it in our sphere of influence. And do so.
Because we come from such an impersonal background, And then we come to Krishna consciousness, which is the most personal, but we don't know what being personal is, so we superimpose our own thing, and so many kind of atrocious things happen as a result. And people are thinking it's, because we can quote something, kind of, it's like ammunition, it's not like ammunition.
Bible bashing.
Yeah, so it's, as someone said, it is all about love and rasa and like this here in the Sanskrit, my dear, such and such, oh, do I have one, or it's like all terms of affection that they address each other with. So, it's just trying to get to that platform from such an impersonal background. So that's why we have to be taught. Just preparing to develop a framework. This is something
Yeah, there's a tendency to use the philosophy to become more impersonal, isn't it? Like if somebody's got a pain or sick, you say, people, you're not this body, just. I mean, sometimes it may be necessary, but you can see Prabhupada didn't do that so much. Sometimes he did it, of course, by his example often. But when he was practically not that bad, one devotee had a boil who was carrying him around in a palanquin, and he expressed this very deep concern for that boy while he was, on his deathbed, about to leave this planet. You have anything to share? Any thoughts on this question? Okay.
And so many devotees that say, I don't have a friend. The spiritual master saying that used to be his that a lot. I don't have a friend. And so that's why I'm so appreciative of the council system. There's a regular in church and so on. It's easy to someone just as long as they're doing their service, then they'll be followers with them.
Remember that film Alien? It said nobody in space can hear you scream. It said nobody in space can hear you scream. That was the same for this film Alien.
Right.
Something that was like you screaming.
Virtual relationships. Facebook and
yeah, it's a good opportunity for us, isn't it? A Live to Give campaign is to catch up a little bit with the people, connecting them. So yeah, that's great. And we always, you may think, maybe there is, we can always take responsibility, and that's actually one point that I wanted to make, is about taking responsibility for this kind of thing. We have our sphere of influence for our own mind and our own physical capacity, shastra, etc., mind, and social things. We can take responsibility that we at least find one person that we can do these things on a deeper level. And if we have a more responsibility, we can do with more people, organize a little discussion, and come 2 people together, 3 people together, and sometimes that's all that it takes, to increase that kind of thing and grow it. Yes, cool.
So sometimes you can experience that you can have a fallout with somebody, and so they want to avoid, they don't go anywhere near you, so as soon as you go somewhere they go out and back away from you. So, reading the book just now on psychology, it's saying there's 2 things. One is fearful avoidance, and the other thing is fearless intimacy. So everybody wants fearless intimacy. Everybody wants to be in a relationship with someone where they can feel very intimate and free of fear. So that's what we're hankering for. But the very thing we're hankering for, we're also afraid of. We're also afraid of that intimacy in those ways. We become vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of take some leap of faith and say, okay, I'm going to do this. And when you do it, it's actually okay. But even when you do it, you're going to keep doing it. You can revert back again to fearful avoidance, to avoiding because you're afraid of what the intimacy is going to commit you to. And it's described by Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam as fear of a personal identity. And that's why it's easier to be impersonal and switch up in a relationship. The kind of laziness is there also, I suppose, as well.
So relationships can hurt, isn't it? So that's one of the big fears that you feel when you get hurt. But by cultivating forgiveness, isn't it? You can overcome that fear if nothing can hurt you if you're very forgiving. It means nothing can hurt you, so there's nothing to fear in a relationship, even if the other person can be very nasty or harsh. If you're forgiving, then it's no problem.
You may be afraid of betrayal. You think about looking to this person, and they betrays me. So I'm putting myself in a vulnerable situation by doing this. So you resist that, you actually choose that path and go even more vulnerable because you isolate yourself, you distance yourself. So you're actually more doing more than weak condition, and you're able to just connect with people.
Yeah. And we think that there is no time maybe for doing this, but you pick up Bhagavad Gita and you go to see someone and say, let's read this a little bit and discuss it. And it's a fantastic way, even if it's 15-20 minutes, it can make a big difference. Okay, so here, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sadhu Sangha Sadhu Seva ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Krishna Krishna
Hare
Maybe we can do 3 things for a while.